Network TUBECAST. I'm your host, Alex G., your NWL Commissioner. And with me, as always, is marvelous Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
Oh, I'm marvelous.
Damn right.
I'm doing well.
All right, fantastic. So this is episode 2 of our How to Win series here on the TUBECAST, How to Win at the IWA. And tonight we have an interesting topic. It will be holds and strategies. So, Matt, you want to go into the holds and strategies for us?
All right, sure thing. So when you're starting the IWA, there's an obvious inclination to look at the holds in the back of your little bulletin and see, like, for example, I'm holding the Jade bulletin from this past cycle, and I see, a hold like foreign object, 12 points. And then I see suplex, 30 points. Now, you're often thinking to yourself as a new player, picking it by hold name. Oh, no, use a foreign object. Maybe that hold will bounce back. When it comes to the holds, most holds have a 3 to 5 point sway. So they might go up 3 points, might go down 5 points, or up or down. But most of the time, they won't sway more than that 5 points. And even that 5 points is rare. So if you look at it and go, okay, I like the hold DDT. It's worth 43 points. That's an okay hold to pick. But what you want to do is figure out what holds have the best value. And the game isn't about what just did well. It's about what's going to do well. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But just the basics of the holds, you have 10 holds to pick from the first 60 holds. So those first 10 holds are your wear down holds. Your holds if you're thinking of the match, it would be the holds you'd use to set your opponent up. To give you a video game idea, the power bar, you're going to work the power bar down with most of these holds. And then your setup holds, which are the holds 61 through 90, those are your holds that set up your finisher, or they are your finisher. You should know that in the game, they're going to ask you to name your finisher. You can name it whatever you like. I mean, some people call it like sandwich stores. Some people call it like a famous move like this, Sweet Chin Music.
Yeah.
You can make whatever you want, really. But whatever you call it won't really matter. That's just aesthetic for the game.
You can go more into detail with that when you do kind of your character stuff too. So,
right. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But just essentially, you want to try to pick the best holds. Now, obviously, you want to pick the best holds. And the way it works is you pick 15 holds, your opponent picks 15 holds. So let's say you both pick your first slot. You've both picked hold number 1, airplane spin, which is worth 25 points. That's a draw. No one gets the points. Your next hold, let's say your hold number 2 is a drop kick. It's 30 points. And they've picked arm drag. It's 22 points. You get the points for that. And it goes on all the way down the line. Now, the way to get better at this game is to figure out which holds are going to drop and then avoid them. So the magic number is 25. So when people say, what was the drop, they're going to mean either what was the combo or what was the hold numbers. So, for example, in this past issue of bulletin of the Jade cycle, hold number 1 and 32 dropped to 25. The previous cycle, those holds were 27 and 27. So that's a double drop. Now, the double drop is just an easy way of saying 28s, 27s, 26s. This might sound a little bit like Spanish to you if you don't speak Spanish, or gibberish if you don't speak anything at all. The easy way to get this set up right is go to your email riley1d20@gmail.com, and ask me for the How to Win in the IWA sheet. It's a 1-page sheet that's put together by Chris Capps and myself. Chris Capps, one of the best mathematic players ever to play the game. This guy could see Neo Matrix numbers and looks at the holds.
I love it.
Right? He really could. He would see these hold flows and spot them. So what he did is he and I put the sheet together to kind of guide players towards putting a better strategy together. Because one of the most challenging things about getting in the IWA is being competitive in the game, and not just NWL, but in the game as a whole. Because once you leave the NWL, we've seen many a player come in and just kill it in the NWL. There was a guy years ago, Lars Loki. He racked up like 200 wins in like 4 cycles. He was unstoppable, winning titles. He was so good, we were like, ooh, this guy's really good. So we said, you might want to graduate early. He went to the BRL and didn't win a thing, and left the game in 4 cycles, and he's gone. So it's good to remember that. Consider where you're playing. So when we talk about the basics of the game, we're doing a real high overview here. It's just to give you an idea of how the game is laid out, and then it's on you to kind of do the homework.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of players who, went into some of these other leagues that, didn't do as well. I mean, I'm looking at guys across the board who just, they had super success at first. They won league championships in NWL. They won this, that, and the other thing, and they come into one of the vet leagues and they get crushed. It can be very frustrating for them. I've talked to a couple of those guys who have been frustrated by that, but I think perseverance is going to be the key on this.
Right, and I also think it's important to set your expectations. In this game, it can be very difficult to predict the drops, and when that can happen is, for example, the drops are whatever holds drop to 25, because generally there's like a 12 to 14 hold set that are kind of your holds that are worthwhile, and the rest are all junk. You can ignore those holds. So all the holds worth like less than 24 points or 24 points or less, ignore those. You can just scrap them right now. Don't follow them. Don't track them. I personally use an Excel spreadsheet, and I track the good holds, and I keep track of how they do, what they've done, and then I base my guess off of past performance. But also, it's important to know that when you play this game, set your expectations. So, for example, if you win a regional belt in your first couple of months trying or playing the game, that's pretty good. If you don't win one for a few months, give us, email us, Alex or myself. We're happy to help you. There's a lot of players actually that are happy to help you. You can go to the Facebook pages. You can just say, "Hey, I'm looking for some help," and a lot of players will come out of the woodwork and say, "Hey, man, here's some tips," and they're happy to share. Because the better you do, it's better for all of us. Because again, it's setting expectations. But just because you don't do well this cycle, or even a few cycles, doesn't mean you're never going to do well at all.
I personally went through a 6-cycle stretch where I didn't win anything. And it was frustrating for me, but the whole thing was I had my trash talk to kind of keep me going. Right. I kind of worked through that, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, and again, we'll talk about trash talk in our next TUBECAST, but really, this is one half of the game is a strategy, is putting together your strategy. And again, don't put too much pressure on yourself to win early on. Give yourself time to learn the game. We really do say that it takes time to learn the game as a player when it comes to trash talk, when it comes to strategies, how to play with other players. Again, we're talking about the How to Win the IWA sheet. Email us, riley1d20@gmail.com. I'm happy to share it. We're happy to help you do well. We've had players that have taken what we've shared with them, and they've gone on to win the IWA World title out of the NWL. Absolutely. It's happened once, but it still happened. We've had some NWL champions who did really well on the grander IWA scale, and we're actually very happy. Whenever an NWL wrestler can go to grab some major titles, it's kind of cool. It's like, hey, that rookie did really well. I think if you enjoy the game on more than just one spectrum, like if you enjoy the trash talk part as much as the strategy part, you're going to enjoy the game as a whole. If you enjoy one part or the other, you can enjoy that part, but just know that you can work at it and get better at both. You really can.
All right, Matt, let me ask you a question. Is there a different philosophy in terms of strategy when it comes to tag team?
One of the things that happens with tag team wrestlers is you have 2 sets of 15 holds, okay? So what you want to do is when those holds are matched up, so let's say you have 2 wrestlers and I have 2 wrestlers, they take my 2 wrestlers and they compare our number 1 holds. So if my hold at number 1 is worth 30 and my second wrestler's hold is worth 25, the wrestler's hold worth 30 is the hold that counts for that team at slot 1. And the same thing goes for the other team. So if the other team has a wrestling combination and their hold is 28, then our team gets the 30 points. What you want to do is what's called staggering. And what staggering is you kind of try to predict what the 30 hold will be. And then for your first wrestler, you want to have those holds, the 30s, at different slots. So that way you don't double up and lose a 30. So for example, if my first wrestlers, right, my wrestlers have at hold 1, the 30th value 1 and 30th value 1, we only get 130 out of that. So that means I'm only going to get a possible chance at a lower total strategy because I missed out on a tag combination. Now again, this can be confusing to talk about, so if you go to the How to Win in the IWA sheet, again, I would almost say download that form, then listen to this again, and you can probably be able to put it together a little bit better, because I know it's kind of learning a new language, trying to identify the drops. But with tag team wrestling, if you can kind of stagger your strategy, and what they call is PPF, or perfect point flow, that's when your team has the right combination. So it goes 30-30, 30-30. So your first 4 holds are all the maximum hold value. So right there, you jump out, and tag-wise, you've got the right combination of holds. On the bottom end, your last 5 holds, the combo goes 45, 45, 45, 45, 44. So again, refer to the sheet. But tag-wise, you can kind of sacrifice some of your single wrestler capability by doubling the holds up, if you will, or staggering them, if you will. For six-man, it's the same idea, only kind of multiply it by 3. So now you have 3 wrestlers. You're trying to stagger those 30 value holds just the right way so you get them 6 times. And again, I know it sounds like a lot to take in, but there really is a little bit of difference between tag team, 6-man, and singles wrestling. Now, as for Battle Royals, the Battle Royal holds, the ones that are picked for the Battle Royal competition, are picked randomly each cycle. So you could have holds at different spots and not really know for sure if they're going to be the ones that are picked. So, for example, they might pick holds, 3, 7, 9, and 13. And the ones that the wrestlers with the best total value out of those holds are the ones that win. That's roughly how it goes. I mean, it might be a little bit different than that, but it's roughly the mix of it. And I will say this. As part of a strategy for success, you always want to enter the Battle Royal. It's only $1, and it gives you a chance because anytime a champion out of those 10 regionals or TV, if they go on to take the league title, which is very likely because one of those guys,
likely.
So one of those guys is going to vacate their title. That vacant title will go to the Battle Royal winner. And if multiple wrestlers move around in the grid, if you will, so if the Western champion becomes a league champion and the Southern champion becomes a TV champion, that's 2 vacant titles, which means your Battle Royal winner and the first runner-up are going to be regional champions. And just for a fun side note, when the TV tag team or TV 6-man champions win the league tag team titles, the new champions for the TV tag titles are whatever tag team won by the highest point spread. So it kind of, if you want to kind of hedge your bets and you had an extra match, always have your tag team take on a scrub tag team, because if the TV tag champions become the league tag team champions and you beat a scrub team, you're the TV tag champions.
Well, that's a great tip. Absolutely.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
So, Matt, tell me about the curveballs, so to speak, in terms of hold values.
So when it comes to hold values, again, it's a matter of spotting the 25s. So what happens sometimes is you might have a curveball. And a curveball in IWA terms is when a drop that no one saw coming hits. So, for example, most of the time your 45 drops to 44 and 43. So the 2 holds are worth 45 points. One's going to go to 44 points. One's going to go to 43 points. Same thing with like a 44 and a 44. Most of the time, one 44 will go to 45, one will go to 42. 42s usually go to 41 and 44. Now, sometimes they throw some curveballs. So maybe both 43s go to 45, or a 42 goes to 45, or a 45 goes to 43 or 42. It's a way of juggling the numbers up, so it's not as predictable as you thought it would be.
No, it's keeping it honest.
Right, and what it does is the more wrestlers you have in the game, the better the odds that one of your wrestlers' combos is going to hit. If you kind of throw, as many combinations as you can at it. But for the most part, the curveballs happen, I'd say, once every 6 or 7 cycles. So once every few months. And what you'll find happen sometimes is those wrestlers that are inactive end up doing well because some people will challenge them randomly, and their cycle from 6 cycles ago is suddenly good again. So it's kind of a way where, you want to make sure that you cover your bases. But again, in this game, you're kind of going all in certain holes. The more wrestlers you have, the easier it is to kind of diversify your numbers. But if you only have, let's say 1 to 3 wrestlers, you've got to be really accurate with what you're going to choose. Sometimes it takes boldness. You can go, I'm going to go do both 27s are going to drop 25. And you drop both 27s and both 27s drop, you look like a genius. If you drop both 27s and they both go to 30, you look like an idiot. So again, this is kind of like Keno or a lottery. You're hoping the holds and you're kind of hedging your bets. A quick Keno reference is, for example, when I worked at a liquor store, we got Keno, and this guy would come in and he would play 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And he would do that because he said they pop up all the time, or he played the corners. And a lot of players would do this, according to him, because if it didn't pop up, it was due to pop up sometime. So the way to look at the holds is that you kind of go, okay, for example, in the goal of this last 6 cycles, hold number 50, hold number 33, and hold number 5 have all been above 25 points. Now, that's not going to last. One of them is going to drop to 25. So this coming cycle, when I put my holds together, I'm going to analyze that and figure out, okay, if 33 has been good for, let's say, 7 cycles, is it likely that one's going to be the one that drops? Well, then you start figuring out, what are the combinations that have dropped? Now, one thing we need to talk about when it comes to different federations, the reason you want to follow each federation's drops is if the drops are, let's say, the 28th hold value at 28 points and the hold at 26 points, they go to 25. and let's say iron. Well, you can kind of take that off the table as one to worry about, because that combination is most likely not going to pop up in the federation you're in if it's, later on down the line, which is why jade's very popular, because jade, you get to see the whole results from iron, steel, gold, diamond, and bronze. That gives you 5 drops to take out of the equation, and it gets you down to usually about 3 or 4 combinations. Now, of those 3 or 4 combinations, if, let's say, last cycle, 29, 28 were the ones that dropped, now you have 5 combos that drop, and it gives you a better shot. So I'm just saying, if you look at what other federations are doing, it really gives you a chance to see the big picture and what you might be able to be successful with. So just, as a whole, the curveball happens. Don't get frustrated. When it happens, out of the blue. Oh my God, one of the holds dropped to 24. One of the 24s went to 27. It's a curveball. It's going to happen. Don't take it personally. Bite the bullet. Keep playing. And what we're going to talk about next is the trash talk aspect of the game is what really allows you to have a lot more fun, in our opinion. The IWAR is kind of built around it. And we're going to talk about that in our next podcast, why trash talk is a lot of fun and it can be more fun for the game as opposed to just going for strategies.
Yes, definitely. Trash talk is my favorite topic, and it is my favorite thing to do. So I'm really excited about the next one.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
You getting hot? Yeah, you getting thirsty? Yeah, this is a job for Kool-Aid. Hey, Kool-Aid!
Oh yeah, crash bang boom bang. Kool-Aid wipes out thirst for you.
Oh yeah!
Crash a bang a boomer with a big bright smile and a fun taste too.
Oh yeah! Super, hey, your friend's cool. Our friend's Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid brand soft drink mix.